Done. Okay, everybody back. So we're here to help people create that life worth living, legacy worth leaving, career worth having, and business worth owning. Ryan and Frank, you guys are still there now that we're live on Facebook?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. So I just want to do a quick introduction. We're going to start off with a friend of mine for a long time. We went to high school together, one of the largest HUD listing agents in Illinois, Ryan Behrens with RE/MAX Ultimate Professionals. Ryan is a HUD listing agent, and he's going to do a quick dive on what it takes to win the bid on HUD properties. Then we're going to spend the next 35 or so minutes with Ryan Smith, the largest REO agent in Illinois, and then of course a guy who does not require any introduction, Frank Montro, who is the #1 real estate investor agent, king of the South Side, Frankie Montro. Ryan's getting on a plane, Frank's golfing, I have to work. I think Ryan Behrens has to work, so we're going to try to keep this to 40 minutes. Ryan Behrens, RE/MAX Ultimate Professionals, HUD listing agent. What is it, this HUD property? Such a mystery, such a mysterious thing. Give us a little insight on HUD properties.
So I think like most REO, the inventory is down, but I think a lot of investors may look past HUD. Just the way things are rolling now, it's the demand for these properties is high. So you see a lot of owner occupants buying houses maybe that they wouldn't have bought in the past. So yeah, I have a couple, you and I talked a little bit. We can do a complete run through at another time as far as submitting bids and things like that. But I have some tips and tricks for some of the brokers and some of the buyers on.
Awesome. And I'm not sure why, but I don't know if everyone else sees this image, but it looks like I'm Bruce Lee in a Chinese fighting kung fu movie. I'm not live. Are you guys seeing that too?
No, we can see you.
I see you.
Well, my image that I see is like 5 minutes behind. So it's like I'm kung fu fighting on an old Chinese movie.
You're good.
So Ryan, take a dive in on the HUD properties.
So I think the general consensus, because I talked to a lot of buyers, brokers, and I think general consensus is that all the appraisals are high. And I can tell you for sure that they're all different. HUD has different appraisers everywhere. So I think sometimes they do come in pretty high, but I also think that some of them actually come in low. So I think it's important that these brokers and the buyers do their research, know what the value is, know what they're writing on versus paying attention to the list price. Another thing that I tell all buyers, brokers, take a swing. Some of these that have been hanging around out there, people see the list price and automatically go to the property. And I can tell you with all certainty, there have been several in the last year that have gone way, way less than what they're listed at. And I think there's some opportunity there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I'll dive into it a little bit. Just as an example for you guys, and I'm gonna keep this pretty brief. But as far as HUD goes, the bidding process is fairly easy. It's all done through their portal. If you haven't done one before, there aren't any documents that are uploaded. The entire process probably takes 5 to 10 minutes tops, I would say. And the big thing is to submit the bids. If you see something that's high, just throw something at them. Most of the time they will come back and give what they're looking for as far as a counter if it's open to investors. As an example, really quick, there was a property that they listed for $95,000-ish. My BPO was 78. It hung around on the market forever, and someone wrote an offer for 50 grand and they took it. At the time that they accepted the $50,000 offer, it was listed at 84. So when I tell all the buyers brokers that are going and showing after it's been on the market for 45 or 60 days, I just tell them take a swing because you never know. So I've seen not all of them go like that, of course, but seen some pretty good deals that way.
That's unbelievable. So
Can I interject for a second?
yeah,
Ryan, what's the magic number? After 45 days you see them get aggressive, or is it more likely after 60 days?
I would say as far as like that, like the scenario that I laid out, I would say it's probably going to be closer to 60. But I have seen some very, I don't know what you want to call them. They're just, they're investors that keep submitting, keep submitting, and one day they don't take it, and the next day that they do. So I have a feeling that sometimes they can take these offers when they're not acceptable in their system, and they can go directly to whoever their contact is to see if they can get clearance for it, and they accept it. So I would just say be diligent and just keep submitting. It doesn't take very long to submit one of these bids.
and one of the things that I want to mention about HUD is HUD has, and then I'm going to ask Ryan, some of the distinctions and differences between REO and HUD. So guys, for those who don't know the industry vernacular, HUD stands for Housing and Urban Development. You're actually buying a property that's been taken back by the federal government because they have effectively backed the bank, and the bank has given the government back that property, and the government has paid the bank for their loss on that property. And then HUD is a government surplus online submitted auction where you're submitting your bids. Those are HUD properties. You go in through a HUD portal. It's a buyer select program. So what that means is that the buyer is responsible for all of the closing costs, the title. HUD doesn't have an attorney, much different than in the properties that Ryan has, where typically those properties are being managed by a local Illinois attorney. Obviously, Cadillus is the largest REO law firm by far. They do a great job over there. They're handling all of that stuff locally. HUD, it's all based out of Atlanta. We're preparing a deed as the buyer's attorney. We're sending that down there, and we're controlling that whole process. It's called buyer select. So Ryan, what are some of the distinctions and differences in REO rather than HUD, and what's going on with the REO inventory right now? Obviously, one of the biggest things that's going on is everybody's clamoring that there is absolutely no inventory. My clients can't find properties. There's bidding wars. What should we expect over the course of the next 7 to 8 months?
7 to 8 months, I don't think you're going to see much change at all. I think it's going to be pretty steady the way it is now. You're going to see a lot of demand on the residential side. I think you'll start seeing an uptick in default probably Q2 of 21. You'll see a large rise in that. Right now, the inventory is low because for us, it's low because the courts are closed. So we don't get our files. They go to the sheriff's sale. The investor doesn't buy them at the sheriff's sale. They revert back to our clients, and that's when we get the files. There hasn't been a sheriff's sale in 4 or 5 months, I would say. And since that, there's not a lot of default coming out onto the market. REO will likely rise due to many reasons: forbearances, unemployment, property taxes. Then another thing to think about is when an investor goes to the sheriff's sale and he buys a property, the bank will set a bid on the asset of, say, $100,000. If the investor buys it, then they get the property. Well, with the Cook County change in evictions and the eviction moratoriums and it being harder and harder to evict people, I think you're going to see many investors less leery to purchase occupied properties at the sheriff's sale, which will then push it back into REO. They'd rather, I think they know what the market's going to do, and they'll pass on buying at the sale and push it off back to the bank to deal with the occupants. The eviction timelines are going to slow a lot of stuff down. Pre-COVID, Cook County was seeing about 150 to 200 filings per day. Post-COVID, they're expected to see 450 to 500 filings per day, which, if you know, Cook County evictions take about 9 to 12 months pre-COVID. We should probably see 18 to 24 months on an eviction file after COVID. So that's going to make a lot of investors who go to the sale a lot less leery to buy at the sale. So that'll spike inventory. Right now, it's just kind of, calm. The calm before the storm, I guess you can say. But that's what we think will happen.
And I want to talk a couple of key points that I know are points of aggravation and contention. If you and I ever are having to scream at each other on the phone, which we don't do very often, but you might be screaming about some of my clients. List to sale, like what's the average? I mean, a lot of times people come in and, they have the capacity to buy one or two properties and all of a sudden they think that, they have the upper hand over these banks and they can make an offer at 50% and come in with repair requests and say that the whole house needs to be done, or they've looked at the house and the basement foundation is bulging. It's obvious that it was bulging, and yet they're coming at you with the $20,000 price reduction.
Yeah. When my clients, they know the condition of every property we have on the market because we provide that to them. We're very transparent with our clients when we go to list a house, when we do our marketing plans. We make them aware of all conditions and all of that. So everybody's aware of it. As is means as is. What really upsets me is when you get a property under contract, you claim you're an investor, and then you want a $20,000 reduction. Well, that bulge was there when you wrote the contract. And that's a game that doesn't work. A lot of people think it will. But I'd rather put the property back on the market, reduce the price $10,000 and test the market versus give it to you a $20,000 reduction just because you're under contract. So that's a game that, it might have worked 10 years ago, but today it's not going to work. It's just going to upset people.
Hey, Ryan.
We know, yeah.
Right. Let me ask also, when somebody does that, does the bank and you make a mental note of that particular investor? And when they get into a bidding war next time, you're going to say, hey, that's the same guy that pulled that scam on us before.
Yeah, I mean, I have a pretty good idea who's full of it and who's not. You call it a list, a mental note, whatever you want to call it. But there's a list. There's something out there that we remember who does what, and it'll affect you, right? I mean, in everything, reputation's everything. That's when you're going to buy a house. I've got guys that I can call on the 20th and say this deal fell through. Will you buy it? And they'll close in 5 days. That's good reputation. I can rely on those people. When you start to back out of deals or renegotiate after you get under contract and think that my clients need you, I mean, you ruin your reputation. And it's a small industry. It's a small city, regardless how big you think Chicago is. There's not a lot of players that actually do this every day. And I mean, we all have a good idea. And if I don't know, I can call someone. I've called Gary out before and I said, Gary, you know this guy? And turns out he was a complete fraud. And I mean, it's your reputation's everything. So, if you put a property under contract, stand by it, close on the property. Simple as that.
I want to pitch it over to
now, Gary. Let me say for investors out there, I don't mean to say that firmly. Don't get me wrong. If there's a lot of unforeseen things, like say you go in a house and the structure is really, really bad, we can work with that, right? If you find out that underneath the roof there's termites in that, it's not as is to the extent of we won't do anything. But if it's foreseen at the time, if it's visible, we know about it, right? So we'll work with you on some serious stuff, but the other stuff, don't try to renegotiate.
And I want to talk to, I want to have Frank opine on this because I know this is something that Frank has a tremendous amount of passion about. It's something that he believes very, very strongly in. And it's that circle of success. So one of the things that I put on our topic is some people say it's not what you know, it's who you know, or it's not who you know, it's what you know. But as Ryan mentions, it's actually what you know and who you know. Because the three gentlemen that are on the screen here today are people that I know, I like, I trust, and the number one part of their business is to deliver extreme value with a
think we lost Gary.
Yeah, we did. Okay, so I'm going to jump in here, guys, and talk and complete his thought. So what Gary's talking about is you are only as fast, you're only as good as your weakest link. So it's important to build a team. Ryan Smith and I end up being good friends. We've done a ton of business over the years. Brian, how long do we know each other? I mean,
you knew me when I was going in the military, so.
Right,
at least 20 years.
So a lot of my relationships are 20, 30, 35 years deep. And one thing that I've learned was the importance of surrounding myself with the best of the best. That's why I choose Gary. And I thank you, Gary, for bringing us on here today. Gary, in my humble opinion, is the best attorney in the real estate game. And I refer him to everybody else. I mean, there's guys, I think Mike Murphy's on the line from Chicago Title. I mean, that's my go-to guy. Now, what happens is when you surround yourself with good people, there's a synergism. So I refer business to these guys, they refer business to me, and that's how it works. So like I said, you're only as good as your weakest link. And so every person that I surround myself with pushes me. We have talks all the time. Ryan, Gary, Murph. I mean, we have personal talks. We not only help each other out in the business world, we help each other out personally. So Gary, are you back? Okay,
I think you're muted.
Unmute yourself. Yeah. So to answer your question, especially for new people on there, or even seasoned people that are on there, I would do an inventory check with who are your associates, who are your partners. Gary and I always joke around at using the word vendor, but I consider every person I work with a partner. So I expect them to give me business, and I'm going to give them business, and that's really the way it should be. And if you're working with people today, and all of your associates, all of your partners are just taking from you and not giving back, you need to reassess with who you're dealing with.
And Ryan, follow up with Frank, either one of the Ryans, quite frankly. What does that do in terms of on the listing side of these properties when you see that? How does that make the process go smoother? And what kind of things should brokers who are listening and investors who are listening be doing to create the best opportunity for their deals to be accepted, both from creating a team perspective and just in how they present the offer from a mechanical perspective? Either one of you guys.
I think from the HUD side of it, it's if you have that team in place, there's a lot less work for the buyer and the buyer's broker. And not only that, it gets done in a timely fashion. So having that team, having those people, those partners is huge. And I've done some REO, not like the other Ryan on the call, but I'm sure he's going to say the same thing. Plus, then you know who the people are, you know who the players are, and you know that they get it done.
One thing on the HUD deals that I want to just mention is it's a very, very perilous thing. You have to have your whole package to HUD within 24 or 48 hours. You have to have all your forms selected. This is not something that's being submitted on a multi-board application. You've got to have your stuff together. And if you think about the federal government, and REOs are the same way, you either did it right or you didn't do it right. And the difference between doing it right and not doing it right could be whether or not you actually are awarded the property. So a lot of times people think, go ahead.
I'm going to jump on and speak on behalf of Ryan Smith, because I know he can't get too aggressive with this language where I can. I'm speaking as an outsider looking in. Ryan Smith and other REO brokers and the other Ryan will whittle your name down to their grandchildren if you don't close on a transaction on a timely basis. Because a lot of these asset managers have part of their income tied into deals closing on a timely basis. So
And
if
Fred,
you're out there and you want to get in the game, you better have your ducks in a row and you better close on time, because otherwise you're not going to see a lot of wins from these guys anymore.
Yeah, and when he says income, a lot of it's goal-based bonuses. I don't want that to be misconstrued as any other type of way, but a lot of them are bonus-based goals, and it matters. But relationships matter, Gary, because if I have 10 offers on a property and I've got a 203K and a hard money, and then I've got a cash from Frank, but Frank's $7,000 less, I'm guaranteed Frank's going to close. The hard money in today's market's very iffy. 203K is a 45 to 60 day process. So I'm going to call the client, and based on my relationship I have with my clients, I can make a case for Frank's offer because he has a proven track record of closing. And that's why relationships in this industry and, in the defaults and HUD and investor standpoint are so important, because it's not always, I get calls all the time from the lovely people at IDFPR saying so-and-so made a complaint that their offer wasn't accepted. Well, it doesn't always have to be the highest offer. The sellers can go with the best offer to close in the shortest amount of time. And a lot of that's based off relationship and track record.
And to your point, Ryan, as well, too. So I've had conversations with Ryan on this before, too. Just because somebody bids high doesn't mean that it's going to come in. If it's a loan, it doesn't mean it's going to appraise out for that amount of money. So some of these realtors are very smart. So they'll come in with a bid that's overinflated so that they know they get the deal. And then when the appraisal comes in, you're stuck on making a decision, and you got to throw it back on the market, Ryan, like you've explained to me many times before. So, Ryan's been to this dance enough, guys. So you can't trick someone like Ryan into giving him an overinflated contract either. So in other words, if I'm coming in at market value with a cash to buy a deal, and somebody else is 20,000 higher, we know it's not going to work out. Their comps show that it's not going to work out. Then, he has a strong case. That's additional information to help him sell a cash transaction that he knows is going to close.
And I'm very
real quick, Ryan, and you can opine on this. Is there any rule of thumb on what people should be offering on these properties?
Full price.
No. Yeah, I mean, not really. I mean, yeah. I mean, there's no discounts being given. One of the biggest misconceptions, I get a call all the time. Well, what's the mortgage on it? What the bank foreclose on it for? That doesn't matter. And I tell them all the time that's irrelevant, and then they tell me no, it's not. It matters, and it really doesn't. But okay, we sell houses based on fair market value, based on what other comps in the area are doing, and what the condition of the property is. What the bank foreclosed on is, what the previous balance is, what repairs matter. None of that matters. It's fair market value. At over 120 days on the market, you'll start to see a little more discounts being given. But I'm not, I get calls all the time. I'll have a property at $100,000, the guy will throw a $70,000 offer in, and I'm on the market 21 days. My position is I'll reduce it to 90 and test the market for another 20 days before I give it to you for 70. We don't have to get rid of these houses. It's not burning a hole in anybody's pocket. It's not like, the bank has to get rid of it. They're carrying it. 90% of the REO you see today are secondary mortgages that have been bought and resold so many times that nobody's carrying anything or taking a loss. So that's a big misconception. If you're buying default properties with hard money or 203K loans, I'm very involved. I'm a very hands-on broker, and we ask for renovation bids up front. A lot of the reasons hard money loans fall through at the closing table is because the guy buying the property will tell his hard money loan, it needs a $50,000 rehab. Well, a lot of hard money loans will only loan up to $75,000 renovation costs, and they don't find out that the rehab is really $90,000 to $120,000. So if you're using hard money or you're using 203K and you really want to compete, get your bids ahead of time, get your scopes ready and say, hey, look, here's my offer, here's my hard money line, here's my scope. Because I guarantee you my office is going to call the hard money lender and say, what's he pre-approved for? What's his renovation budget? It's only worth this on the back end. It's not going to make sense. And So in today's market, we're vetting hard money a lot more. We're vetting 203K a lot more. We're keeping very strict timelines. If you're going to contract, you have 7 days to get the scope to the lender on a 203K loan, because a 203K loan's dead in the water until they have a repair scope. So get those ducks in order when you're submitting offers, and it'll make everybody's life a lot easier.
What about what I refer to as phantom financing? The cash offer that morphs into the hard money loan.
Or a line of credit.
How are you guys viewing that?
All cash, right?
I get around it by, we demand a real proof funds within the last 30 days up front. If you're cash, it's got to be from a bank. It's got to have your name on it. It's got to be a bank statement. I mean, don't give me a line from, Prairie Towers Lending has given Joe Smith a line of credit. Like, what? No.
And guys, for the investors that are listening, just understand, if it's a line of credit and that line of credit requires an appraisal and a mortgage, it's not cash. So when you're selecting one of the options, most contracts are going to have 3 basic options. One is mortgage contingency. One is mortgage, but not contingent on financing. Mm-hmm. And then the third is cash. So, if Ryan sees something where there's a mortgage allowed, but it's not contingent on financing, that's still a strong offer, because he knows that that earnest money is non-refundable, because your offer is not contingent upon you getting a mortgage. Ryan Behrens, is there any differences on HUD versus what Ryan is saying on the REO side in terms of what Ryan just discussed?
No, it's very similar. The only difference is, and I worked with Fannie Mae for a while too, and did some other REO stuff, but mainly just HUD. Most of it's the same. I would say the one big difference is the listing brokers, including myself, do not see the bids. So when they're submitted directly to the asset manager. So it's a little different than maybe what Ryan sees on his end when he sees the offers come in and they get submitted. So we don't see them. And it's all done online. All the HUD stuff, whether you're a buyer on this call or a broker, it's all done through HUD Home Store. So what I tell people, and it's mostly brokers that I'm talking to, is really watch that website, because there may be a time where you see a property pop back on the market that maybe doesn't hit MLS yet, and you may have a shot at securing it before it actually gets back onto the MLS. So if I could give you that advice, just to keep an eye on the website.
Ryan, as it relates to the submitting of bids for HUD properties, I've heard some stories about when that offer is submitted. Like if you go on there at 12:01 or things of that nature. Is there any truth to any of those? I guess we'll refer to as old wives' tales.
No, it's basically the bidding deadlines are on there. Usually the deadlines are at 11:59 that night. You want to make sure that you have it in. But if there's an owner-occupied period that's expiring and they're allowing investors to come in, I always say watch and make sure that you submit that day, because the next day is when they're going to start looking at the bids. And we can do something a little more down the road. You and I talked about it a little bit as far as a walkthrough, and I could give them some more information. But the same as what Ryan is saying. I mean, as is as is. HUD 110% is as is. They will not make any repairs whatsoever. They may board up a window, maybe, but as far as them doing anything, it is zero. They do not make any repairs or allow them. And in addition to that too, I could tell you too, as an investor, you got to be careful when you get one of these under contract and you have a scenario where you want to go back and say, oh wait, this is in worse condition. I have yet in 22 years to see HUD refund earnest money to an investor. So when you're writing and submitting your earnest money, just make sure that you're confident.
And if the earnest money doesn't get in, guys, I know a lot of investors like to play these games with HUD. They're going to verify that earnest money is received. And if you do not have that earnest money in, your contract's automatically canceled. The dog ate my homework, got lost in the mail. That stuff does not work. This is literally you either complied or you didn't comply. So what HUD, just recapping what Ryan Behrens said, these are blind offers. You can't call Ryan Behrens and say, where do I need to be at? These are offers that are submitted directly to the asset manager, and the asset manager has different criteria for each property and each geographic location, and based on various metrics on how they're going to accept that offer. Now, I want to push it over to Montro again, because I want Frank to talk to us about the reality of this and the reality of what a person needs to do to put themselves in the best position to have that property accepted by the bank. Obviously, Ryan can't be telling everybody what the offers are and such, but what are the three key components to you, because you're one of the most successful guys at having offers accepted. What are what are the key components with that?
I would say first of all is you need to get liquid. So you need to come in with cash or a signature loan. If you don't have cash, then a signature loan is as good as cash. You know, borrow against your house so you want to come in with cash or signature loan. You want to put down a tall down payment, $5,000 to $10,000 down, shows that you're more serious. And what's the other thing I wanted to say? Oh, no contingencies. So I mean, they hate, you know, if I go to Ryan Smith and say, Ryan, I got a cash offer at list price, and there's no contingencies, and it's $10,000 down. Ryan is going to be very happy, and I have a very good shot at getting the deal. Now, you know, it's a crazy market right now, so a lot of stuff's getting bid up. But you know, if like Ryan said, if he has a 203K deal and he has a hard money loan from a hard money company that I'm not going to get into any names, but we you know, Ryan, you know where I'm gonna, you guys know where I'm gonna go with this.
I've got a book of them.
Right, and so yeah, they're a piece of work, but they have like insane overlays. Some of these hard money, you have to have like some of these hard money. Don't be suckered in. Yeah, the other thing too is to the newer people out there, don't be suckered into these no money down BS hard money lenders, because that comes with a price tag that's unbelievable. The house has to have an insane return on it, you know, and those returns aren't out there now. So if you don't have the money, if you're an investor, you don't have the money, partner up with somebody that does have the money. Cash is king. Eliminate the contingencies. Go in and do your homework, and pair up with someone that, if you don't know what you're doing, pair up with an expert like myself. I'll go in. We will tell you exactly what the work is going to be. We will tell you exactly what the back end is, and nothing beats experience, guys. Because one of the best things that I bring to the table is my 38 plus years of experience. I can look at a house and tell you. I've looked at houses. Here's an example. I looked at houses on the same block. Same house, same square footage, and there's a $40,000 difference because of what's on the outside. And I was right, and it closed. I was close. It closed at 38,000 difference. Okay, shoot me. So, but you know, that's a big difference. That takes a lot of fun out of it. When you buy the wrong house and you got to sell it for 38,000 less, that takes all your profit out of the equation. You're working for nothing. So yeah, that would be what, you know, when I come to these guys. I'm coming, you know, that's my ideal buyer is a big fat down payment, no contingencies, and a cash or a signature loan. Can't beat it.
That's awesome. So
Keep it simple.
we're at 11:38. I know Ryan's got to catch a flight. Frank's got to tee off. It's raining in Homer
Business.
Glen.
Is it? Oh, thank God. I really don't want to play today either.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
It's a business.
Gary, don't make it seem like I'm going on vacation. I got dinner at 5:30. I've got to be out of state, so it's a work dinner.
Okay. Well, you can say what you want. The parting thoughts from anybody before we sign off. There was a question about whether there's going to be a replay. I don't know if there will be. I tried to hit Facebook Live and it looked like I was having some problems. So I'm not sure if this is or isn't being taped. If it is, we will have it up. If you go to YouTube and type in Castle Law Zoom, Gary Davidson, Castle Law, you can subscribe to our channel, and there's a lot of deep dive interviews on things affecting the real estate industry and other areas. You can go be there. My marketing guy says it will be up. Yes, it will be there. So we got that to work. You're going to have the video.
Beautiful.
Any parting thoughts from me?
So I'll lead. Yes, I would say to the people out there to partner up, work on improving your partners, and work on partnering up with top producers. I'm always looking for new business. I deal with so we didn't really get into this, but I work the other angle. I work the off-market properties. I get stuff practically almost every day, Monday through Friday, on that stuff too. So I'm always looking to expand my investor base. So you can reach me at 708-307-0777, and we can talk shop. Again, that's 708-307-0777. But I strongly recommend that you start approaching and working with the top producers, because those are the guys that are getting and ladies that are getting it done.
And a couple of things, just and Ryan, if you have some parting thoughts, but there were a couple of questions on the side. I just want to hit those. Guys, the link to the Castle Law YouTube channel is going to be in the comments section. You can click on that. Sean Camera is asking, how do we get access to the off-market property list? The answer is just what Frank said. Frank is going to share his best resources with his best clients. Period. End of story. So if you're someone that is using Frank on a regular and consistent basis and are not a cherry picker, Frank's going to give you his best properties. And then he just goes down the list with people. We have one question, Ryan, before you sign off, from FD, and he is wondering, when do we hope that REOs are going to start hitting the market again?
November 7th.
What time? 12:30 after?
Depends on what time the election's over.
Gary got that.
That's awesome.
I mean, once the courts open back up, we can't do anything. We're all kind of in a pattern of hold until they start opening the courts. So I don't know. It's supposed to be July 6th. It was supposed to be July 28th. It was supposed to be August, and I don't know. We'll see. Sooner the better, though.
So, guys, REOs are created when the bank can complete the foreclosure process and they get a judicial deed signed by the judge. If the courthouses are closed, then foreclosures can't happen and judges aren't signing judicial deeds. So it's the way to really determine this is to continue to watch, Cook County, what the governor is saying. If you buy throughout other states, think about that. There could be opportunities in other states. Indiana right now. Now, Frank and Ryan, we want to see you buying in Illinois, but Indiana, it's more open. There may or may not be more inventory there. I don't know the answer to that.
There isn't.
There isn't.
We're there right now. It's even harder.
It's even harder.
It's very reminiscent of '08 to me right now, Gary. You know, market's hot. There's not enough inventory out there.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's buying. Everybody's refinancing. Rates are low. It's very reminiscent of what happened 12 years ago. But people think I'm negative for that. If yes, Rosario, I'm the most negative person in real estate. But I just
I don't know if it's like '08, but there's similarities, but there's also other factors in play. So I don't think you're going to have a crash. There's always adjustments. I would say, to Ryan's point, I would agree that there's going to be shifts and adjustments. Prices will go. There's markets, many markets in Chicago that are going up, and prices in certain neighborhoods that are way overvalued that have to come down. So, you know.
Hey, Ryan Behrens, I'll give you the last word because you haven't spoken yet.
Yeah, I would say if you're looking for a deal out there, and I'm speaking kind of a specific foreclosure or REO market, but keep an eye on HUD Home Store, and if you see something pop up there, take a swing at it, because it's and I'm sure Frank will tell you that you're finding a lot of deals outside of MLS, and I can tell you for sure in the last couple of months I've seen some ridiculous deals for investors on HUD properties, but they're taking swings, and I think they're capitalizing on it. So keep an eye on HUD Home Store and swing away.
All right, guys. Well, I really appreciate everybody. This is Gary Davidson. I'm with Ryan Behrens with RE/MAX Ultimate Professionals, Crest Hill. Ryan Smith with RE/MAX in Western Springs, and of course the person that needs no introduction, Frank Montro with Keller Williams in Orland Park. This is Gary Davidson. This is the Castle Law Zoom webinar, where we're here to help you create a life worth living, a legacy worth leaving, a business worth owning, and a career worth having. Please reach out to me, gdavidson@castlelaw.com, or 815-744-6550. I'd be glad to make introductions to any of the three people, hard money lenders, anybody where I can add value to you. I'm happy to make those introductions. And we'll see you next time. We're going to start doing these every Thursday again. We're going to have Frank talk about wholesaling and do a deep dive on wholesaling. We'll have Ryan back at some point to go through a step-by-step process on how to deliver HUD homes. So thanks so much
for your time, Gary.
Thanks, Gary. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Take care.